Hi y'all, I'm Hannah.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
Hi, I'm Ann.
Hi, I'm Holly.
Hi, I'm Marie, and we are coming to you live from the beautiful state of Texas because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Hey everybody, wherever you are, happy Wednesday, and thank you for joining us. We are Living Felt. These are four beautiful magical fairies who fill orders and make lots of woolly wonders for you. Are you guys having a good day?
Oh yeah.
Somebody tell us something about your day today.
Well, I've been helping people select colors for their projects, so that's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Been rolling lots of New Zealand Corriedale today and packing orders this morning, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, and go ahead, Holly.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm having my own version of Woolly Wednesday, rolling core wool and getting fuzzy.
It's a fuzzy kind of job. What about you, Hannah? What you got?
I just had a little shout out. I had a lovely conversation with one of our winners from last week. I had a conversation with Terry Brino's husband. And Terry, you are so lucky. He was such a sweetheart, and all of y'all's kind thoughts and kind words really do make our days. So hi, Terry and Terry's husband.
Thank you guys for joining us. We are going to Nunofelt one more time, finish up our Nunofelt pouches. So let's get started. Thanks, guys. Happy Wednesday, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time, say, hey, I'm new, and we will hopefully greet you. This is Woolly Wednesday. We like to hang out with our friends for about an hour, and you should see people saying hi and where they're from. So wherever you are in the world, we hope you'll do that. If you're brand new, you're watching a live show, you can hit that bell up in the top and get notified every time we go live. If you're watching the YouTube playback, hit the subscribe button and make sure that you get notified every time we upload a new video. We capture Woolly Wednesdays in real time and upload them to YouTube. We have a playlist for Woolly Wednesday, we have a playlist for wet felting, and we have a playlist for needle felting and some other specialized ones too. So I hope you will subscribe to that. And hey, if you're just brand new to us, you've never ordered with us before, you can also get our newsletter, which comes out about once a week, and that's always filled with projects made by our friends, most often with our fiber. So you can subscribe to our newsletter, and Ann is going to post a link to that. We are nanofelting. We have been nanofelting for a little while, and for those of you who don't know what that is, nanofelting is when you generally wet felt and bind the fiber to fabric. We started out making a simple sample. We moved on to making a textural sample, and actually we started out with a chit chat, right? We looked at a bunch of different types of things you could nanofelt, lots of different examples. We made 2 samples, and now we're nanofelting a pouch or a little purse. We started that last week, and I promised that I wouldn't really felt on it. I would felt with it on it with you together. So what we're going to do is jump right back into that. It's basically been sitting in the same state for a week, and I'll talk to you about that. And then we, a little bit later, we'll look at just a couple of different examples that you might look at playing with if you're just brand new to wet felting or nanofelting. But let's say some hi to some people. Who do you got there, Ann?
We have got Becky in Washington, Sandra in Oregon.
Hi, Becky.
Karen also in Oregon, and
Hi,
Helen
Sandra.
in the UK.
Oregon, heck, Helen in the UK. Hi, gals. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We love spending Wednesdays with you, and we are in the middle of a project. So here's what we do during this show. You are welcome to contribute to the conversation and ask questions. Your name will go into our little magic bowl, and we'll draw prizes at the end and give away some free gifts. Next week we're going to be needle felting, so if that's more your bag, we're going to get back to that. And yeah, I think that's it. So if you have questions, we'll do our best to answer them. We can't answer every question every time. If it's really, really important, you can email us at customerservice@livingfelt.com, or you can call us. We are here 6 days a week until 4 p.m. You can see the hours on our website. We have a toll-free number, and we'd be happy to help you pick colors, help you choose fibers for a project, or help you find a video resource or some tutorial we've done. So we're going to turn down our cameras and keep felting our project. Friends, so here's where we are. I have some towels here. We have our grippy mat. I have the pool noodle that we used last week, a bamboo mat that I have just rubber banded the ends for so I could have a slightly smaller core rolling tool, and that's just an option for you to play with. Anne's gonna heat up my water here just a little bit more. Thank you so much. This is our olive oil soap, which is really great for wet felting. Let it dry in between uses, and then you can just kind of reconstitute it by putting it in your hot water. I'm going to use a sponge today to wet out, and I think that's about it. So a really common question we get is, can you come back to your wet felting project later? Sometimes we might suggest that you let it dry out, and sometimes we say if you're going to leave it for just a few days, then you can keep it wet. And I intended to felt mine at least a little bit before I came back to you, and I never did. So I only did the complete set of rolls that I promised to do, which was 100. We rolled this project 100 times from each edge on both sides for a total of 800 rolls. Let's open it up and look at it together. I haven't even opened it since I was with you last. So let's look at it together, and then we're gonna felt it some more. So this is our project. We are making a little nano felt pouch, and I'll show you both sides. It's very wet, and this is what it's gonna be like a little pouch like this. We've been felting this in real time so you can get an idea of how your own project might go. And also, we want to help you just get over any concerns you have about felting and try a simple project like this one. So we rolled it 100 times from each edge. What I'd like to do is add some fresh soap and water, a little hot water and soap, just sort of revive it, if you will. And we're gonna roll it again, and then I'm gonna do some more hand rubbing. I like to roll it. It's gonna keep in the plastic. It's gonna keep all my design in nice shape and give us a real even agitation as we felt it.
And a lot of our felting friends want to know if it's mildewed at all, or if it has any kind of moldy smell.
Yeah, it actually doesn't. It doesn't smell stinky at all. And that might be something that, you think about. You could definitely dry it in between. If your project is super thick, the concern about drying it in between felting would be that it starts to dry up and float away from your resist. So you'd really want to be patient in sort of reconstituting it, if you will. And if it's something flat, you can dry it in between. I left it sealed in the plastic, and maybe that helped, instead of it just sitting in just a towel. Maybe the plastic helped keep it fresh. I don't know. Honestly, I was just too busy this week to get back to it. And so grateful that it held up. So now is a great time to ask us some questions. I don't know if that is some rest or something. Ask us some questions if you want. We're gonna felt this, and I'm gonna move pretty quickly, but I'm gonna stay with our little pool noodle for the moment. Ask us any questions about supplies or techniques.
Devin asks, is this similar to how you do a journal cover?
Yes, it really is. And the difference with a journal cover might be, so we started this with a little notebook as our guide. And with a journal cover, you might like to use a resist so that you can slip the sleeves inside. And I have a really big one that I made for a book much larger than a journal cover where I did that. Yeah, and that was fun. Definitely a great model for that.
Claire says, I had to go at this and ended up with bulky corners. I tried rolling just the corners, but it didn't work. Any tips?
If the corners were bulky, were they just heavy in wool? That's my question, Claire. Were the corners just heavy in wool, or did you have big folds? When you go around a corner, when you fold the fabric around the corners, there tends to be a big, mass of wool that kind of gets in the corners. So what you can do is tease it out and pull it out. We show how to do that in our slipper kit. because it's very common to take big piles of wool and fold them over. So it can help to tease out the fibers. Use this hand to hold the fibers down and tease it towards the middle of the template so that you don't have all that bulk sitting there. And thank you for your questions. We're on about a 25-second delay. So while Anne reads your questions, I'll keep rolling. And if anyone's counting, I can't count and talk, so.
Linda asked, could you just sew the flat piece edges to form the cover? So I guess
Yeah,
you could just sew.
yeah, absolutely. If you just want to sew, if you want to make felt to cut and sew, you absolutely can. You don't have to make the slip. You don't have to make it slip into the corners. Yeah, you can cut felt to make felt to be cut and sewn. Yes.
Oh, Claire shares about the bulky corners. I think maybe too much wool on the corners, plus they did shrink down a bit.
All the wool should shrink the same, and what you happen is the wool is kind of going towards itself like this. So even though it's shrinking, I mean, I guess if the corners were bulky, it should kind of be an even amount of wool all the way around. So unless you're trying to make a particular area heavier, like you might want to make the bottom of a purse heavier or the bottom of slippers heavier so that they're more dense. So I would just work on the layout, the even layout in the first place, and then reducing that bulk when you fold over, because that is a very common thing. And that's a great question. It's just a great opportunity to kind of learn how to lay out your fiber. And sometimes rounding the corners of your resist can help be like a trainer for that as well. This is why you keep old towels. If you notice this silk, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I don't recall where I got this piece of silk that we used for the inside, but it's bleeding a lot. So if you have a tabletop you want to protect, or a towel that you don't want to get ruined, you might want to, use old towels when you felt. So I saw that some people, I know Kimberly Poley posted a pouch. I haven't really seen anyone else post a pouch, but I've been seeing people post, they've been trying the cobweb scarf, which is a free video. We did the cobweb scarf 2 ways. We did a live version where real-time felting, we felted one together. That was a felt along, and it should be under wet felting tutorials on our YouTube channel. And we also did a condensed version, which is about 20 minutes long for those who just want the speed version. So on any of our YouTube videos where we do real time, look, if you're bored, just speed it up. We do the real time for people who really need that little additional help or confidence boost, because some people think, I don't know, that there's some mystery that happens offline that makes, maybe the teacher's project come out successful and theirs not. And we like to kind of just demystify and show you everything when we can. So there's no really hidden tips or tricks. Making handmade felt takes time. And for those of you who make bread, let's see just maybe a round of thumbs up or hearts for people who make bread. For those of you who make bread, you really start to learn the dough. And if you're teaching someone else, it's hard to maybe convey in words what things should feel like with your hands. And felt is kind of the same way. So we encourage to help train yourself. If you're willing to stop felting a piece when you think it's done and let it sit overnight, then give it a real honest critique the next day about how well it's felted for the purpose you intend. A wall hanging that doesn't need to support itself can be more lightly felted than a purse that you want to carry all the time. Okay. I don't love all this bleed happening, but here it is anyway. Okay, so we've just felted 100 times. We've just felted 100 times from each side on that edge. And what you can see is that a couple of things you'll notice, it's felting in a little more here than here. Sometimes design and the way you lay your fiber will pull. I almost always find that the flap felts differently than the body because it's not pulling from all sides like the rest. So you can always go back and spot fold, but this thing is really starting to felt down. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take the resist out. When you know that you can take something out of a resist when it starts to buckle on the resist, and in this case, like if you were doing a vessel and it was fully encased, maybe a pillow or something that was fully encased, it starts to buckle on the resist, and you know it's a good time to take the resist out. In this case, it's open, so what happens is it starts to shrink around the resist, and just makes the resist wrinkle. Because this resist is so lightweight that you can see here, if I'm gonna lay this, I'll lay this on the resist so you can see what I mean. The resist will start to wrinkle and fold because it's such a lightweight material. So you can see that we've already shrunk it smaller. See that? We've already shrunk it. Does that show up, Anne? We've already shrunk it smaller than the bubble wrap. So here's the bubble wrap. Yeah, okay, Anne says you can see it. So what I'm gonna do is get rid of this bubble wrap, and we're just gonna felt the purse by itself. And that's what I wanted you to see. So I guess I'm gonna stick with my little pink plastic thing, just to keep the water in a little bit. What I'm gonna do is just heat the whole thing up. I'm gonna put it in my bucket, give it a squeeze, and add some more hot water. What you got there, Anne?
Let's see. Jennifer asks, what if when you take the resist out and find what happens if you take the resist out and find really thin areas? Can you still add more wool to fix it?
It would be ideal. Jennifer asked, what happens if you take the resist out and you find really thin areas? You know what? Do that early on. And if you watch our beginning wet felting videos, what we're gonna tell you is, as you lay out the fiber, pat the fiber and feel it. Before you get it wet, look for those thin areas. Then, when you do your first wetting, if you feel them, add them then. You should be feeling for the quality of your felt and the layout at every stage. So you don't want to go too far or it's just not going to bind, especially if you're working with a really fine fiber like we have here. I mean, we did 400 rolls and we have a piece of fabric that we're going to now full. You have a soft felt when your fabric is holding together like this, and you could essentially pinch it and it stays together and doesn't pull apart. We have that now after very few rolls we did last time, and I did not felt it other than what I told you I was going to do off camera. Promise, promise, promise. So one thing I want to show you is this. Now's a great time to spot full, if you will, and start coaxing any area you want to change shape before you go too far. So for the flap, we can start to get the flap to come in a little closer. You can also pull fibers back out if you don't want them to be so swooped in. Or if these are swooped in here, you could start to go after the corners. The first thing I'm going to do is get soap on my hands. You can rub just the silk side and like draw the fibers through the silk side. So rub in the direction that you want it to shrink. I'm rubbing in, not out, out, out. Notice my movement is in this direction, in this direction. The other thing you can do, I'm going to do this down here too. If you rub this wool down here and it's pilling and getting disturbed, then don't. You can use your plastic. You can put your bubble wrap on top of here. You could use your palm washboard. I don't know if I have any here through the plastic or through the bubble wrap. And you can also continue rolling. So if the fibers are distorting or being disturbed by your touch, then you want to go back to the rolling or use a better barrier. I'm gonna turn this inside out just so you can see kind of what's happening here in the corners. And you can felt from the inside out too, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I wanna felt this fabric a little bit more. Even that would be fun, wouldn't it? Having a bag that was like this on the outside and a decorated flap coming here, that would be pretty too. Lots of options, and interesting to see what something looks like when you put a dark fiber under a lighter or just different colored fabric. So I'm gonna keep felting. Now we are fulling or further shrinking the felt. In a minute here, I'm gonna heat up my water even more. And I'm going to kind of felt this from side to side a little bit. And y'all ask some questions. Let's see.
Karen asks, I always have trouble with the corners poking out and not being square. Any tips?
Yes, okay, let's do that. This is our super bubble. For those of you who don't know, it's a very rigid, it's more rigid than like your traditional spa cover. And I'm going to get that right here on hope that's not too hard on your eyes. One thing you can do if you have corners that aren't behaving like you want, like see how my flap, this is bigger than the body of the purse. Sometimes your design elements are contributing to that. Sometimes it's the way you lay out the fiber, but go after them. And I call this the pinch and roll. So go after them and massage them the way you want it to shrink. I'm just pinching and rolling with some more pressure. And I'm gonna get this part to shrink in this direction now. So go after corners. And I don't mind if my flap is a bit uneven, I just don't want it to stick off the body of my purse. I'm pinching pretty good here, and in just a second I'm gonna actually heat up my water even more. I just call this a pinch and roll. Fulling is the stage after you have a soft felt where you are further shrinking that item. As you shrink it, the felt is getting stronger and more dense. That means it's also getting smaller. So, thanks, Ann. So you want to control that. You want to be really mindful of what you're doing and pay attention to what's happening while you're doing it. This pink water doesn't look all that attractive. Okay, I'm gonna go after this corner some more, and I'm gonna go after it this way. We went it the other way, I'm gonna go after it this way. Anne is helping me, so just a second and we'll catch up on some of your questions. Thank you so much, Anne.
Absolutely.
Remember, we started this conversation, we looked at a whole bunch of things you might make. But one of the things we said is how important it is to test your fibers, to test your fabrics, to test your colors together. And that's part of this lesson, is that we started playing with certain things, we looked at certain design elements, and now we're even working on a real simple project. We didn't jump into a handbag that you want to carry, a wall hanging that you want to hang, or you want to give to somebody really special. We started with a little project, and that's what we really like to do. Our goal is always to help you make great felt with fun and have confidence in what you're doing. And if you take little baby steps, then you won't waste your supplies, and you'll build knowledge of the supplies you choose while you do it. I'm gonna put my hand in here and I'm gonna start working out these aren't seams, they're just sort of like, a seam is when it comes off the resist and felts to itself. In this case, what we have is just lines that have been created from how we felt it. So I'm gonna just get mine a little bit rounded. And you just put like I might have my hand in there like this and work around it. I don't want to poke it with my knuckle, I just want to kind of round it out.
Jennifer asked, I am wanting to make bookmarks with silk like this. Can I make it like this and then cut it, will it
Oh.
fall apart?
It won't fall apart if you felt it really well. We have a beginner bookmark kit, which we just use our MC1 wool, but you can absolutely make them like this. Now, if you back them with silk, then you can make them even thinner. And our bookmark kit, we just make them with thin 100% wool. When you cut the felt, the edges are going to all be blunt. So either you can felt them down, at which point they will probably no longer be the beautiful straight edges that you cut, or you can go back and either machine stitch or hand stitch them to keep them really straight. Or maybe you don't want them straight, whatever is the answer, you know? But absolutely. Yep. Okay. I just wanted to kind of work out those sides a little bit. Whenever you felt over resist, they can have a tendency to kind of take on those points. So if you don't want those points to be so sharp, then take them out. Especially if you're making a bag with a gusset, which we did not do today. You have to plan for it in advance. So in this case, we were just making a flat little pouch, and I'm gonna keep on rolling. And I'm open to your questions, whatever they are.
Deb asks, how do you tell when it's been felted enough?
I really think the important thing to do is to dry it overnight. Dry it overnight and be willing to evaluate it. As I said, everything that you felt is gonna have a different purpose or a different function. And you're gonna want a pair of slippers felted more than probably a wall hanging. So you wanna make sure that when it's felted, it's not coming apart on you. You don't want it to tear apart in your hands. That's one of the most important things. You want the fibers to really be one solid fabric.
And is it possible to overfelt something?
It is. It really depends on what you're making. And an example I have for that is commonly when people make their first set of wrist warmers, is they put down so much wool and then they felt them so hard that they're like Wonder Woman bracelets, and they can't move in them. They get too thick and too stiff. So it's not just the overfelting, it's making them just too dense, and that can be also the amount of fiber as well. So it is possible to, you know, felt like a garment and overfelt it so much that it feels like you're wearing a stiff, you know, cardboard dress. But that's why you want to kind of make a sample. Make a sample. See, is your fabric lightweight enough or dense enough for the purpose? Can you see how, for those of you who are just like watching, you know, you feel uncertain, notice how we're just felting by hand now. No fancy tools. I'm always constantly moving it and trying to treat it from different directions. Now I have that flap closed because I want to pay more attention to how these sides look together. So it's felting up pretty good, and I'm spending most of my energy shrinking it this way instead of shrinking it this way, and that's just out of desire. That's out of how I want it to look when I'm done. Questions?
Anne asks, at this point, will the inside ever try to felt together?
No, this won't. No, this is golden. It's good, especially with that fabric in the middle, especially with the fabric barrier. Fibers will still migrate. They'll still migrate through, but they're not going to felt together. If you're concerned about that when you're felting something, just stick a little piece of plastic in there. Just put a little thin piece of plastic in there. It doesn't have to be your thick bubble wrap.
If you're having difficulty getting the as high a shrinkage rate as you're wanting, do you have any tips for?
Okay, the question was, if you're having difficulty getting as high of a shrinkage rate as you're wanting, are there any tips for getting that shrinkage rate? Okay, so the first thing is have made a sample. Make sure you have made a sample before you decide how much shrinkage rate you're going to get. That sample should emulate what you're going to make. That means the same layer of wool, the same type of wool, the same basic design situation, because you've got to really emulate it to make sure that's the shrinkage you can get. Then, make sure that your piece is well felted before you dig in and start to full it like we're doing now, because you'll really rough it up. Secondly, when you get to this stage, even like where we are right now, I can blast this with even hotter water to get even more shrinkage and more agitation. So you want to really focus on the direction where you want to see the shrinkage and heat it up. You can even make sure that you have a nice bit of soap in there, because the soap helps change the pH and open up the fibers so that they get more entangled. So those are my best tips, are, you know, focus in the direction and the areas where you really want the most shrinkage.
I can ask, do you cut the flap down to size if you can't get the shrinkage you desire on that portion?
Yes, you can. You can cut it, and you can even you can cut it and you can sew it if you want. You know, but if you, after you cut felt, you want to seal the edges, meaning you want to felt those edges and close them up. Otherwise, they're really blunt. I wonder if I have, I can't think of whether I have something cut here. Even though it's small, you would want to felt those edges down. So if you cut them, then felt them like that. Cut them and felt them down so that they taper instead of being a very blunt edge. Is this helping what we're doing here? Y'all seeing just kind of how it goes and what's happening? Is this helpful? If you want this to be, you know what I'm gonna do? We have time. I'm gonna hit this with one more hot blast. I'll do it, and I'm actually gonna just empty this water, and I'm gonna hit it one more time with some really hot water. I'm gonna get all of that out. Would you mind dumping that out? Just putting you can let that water be pretty hot. Okay, so I wonder if I brought my book. What I do have is our template, and I'm gonna shrink this down just a little bit more, and then we're gonna dry it so you can see it. This thing that we're looking at was felted over this size, but we used the bubble wrap. So this is the shrinkage that we have achieved so far, because we cut those two items the same size. Anna's getting me one more blast of hot water. So we went from, maybe it was this way, sorry. I think it was this way. Pardon me. Okay, so we went from 12 inches long to currently we are at 8 1/4 to 8 1/2, depending on where the flap is. And we are at 7 inches instead of 10.75. So I'll let somebody do that math for us, and we're going to do our final fulling. Thank you, Magic Ann.
Test it first, because I got that pretty hot.
Oh, it's not too hot at all. Okay, here we go. This water's decently hot, and what I want to do is kind of get it in there and get my item hot. And I am going to add more soap. So I want the item to be hot, not just a little blast of hot water. That's why I squeezed all the water out before I started. And what you would notice if you just start working with it right now is there's some resistance because there's just no soap. There's no soap left. So here we go. Let's just felt this thing down as much as we can right now. I'm going to add a little bit of soap. And I'm open to your questions. I feel like Fraser Crane. I'm listening. Old folks and Anne know what I mean. Funny, but true. Okay, here we go. I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to try and shrink just this direction more. Any questions pop up there, Anne?
Let's see. Some folks are asking if we would need to stiffen the end product in any way, and if we wanted to stiffen the end product, what could we use?
I don't really like stiffening my felt, especially I'm making a little pouch. I want it to be a treasure keeper. I wouldn't want to stiffen it. Some people use chemical additive stiffeners, and I really don't. Maybe on a sculptural piece, like I've been working on some night lights, which I hope we can make together maybe later in the year, or like little glow lamps. You might want to do them for something where you want it to be really rigid all the time and really thin. but I don't tend to add stiffener. Some people use stiffeners like a milliner would use, and I would say if you're looking to that kind of thing, we kind of stay away from chemicals here, but you might check with a milliner and see what they use to stiffen like their wool hats. And I know I tried some stuff when I first got into felting, and there was like this, I want to call it like a candy shellac that people suggested, and it absolutely left a white film, like particles on my felt. I've had people send me stuff that was stiffened, and you could see the stiffener. I think Kate Kaprowski has kind of mastered the stiffening of felt, and I don't know all her secrets. I mean, I know she told us them, but I didn't retain them, honestly. So I would research it, you know, with some other people, but we don't tend to go that direction very much. I'm gonna go just a little bit more, and we're almost done here. I know I shrunk it down some just now. Like, you can feel it in your hands. You can feel the fabric get more dense.
Brenda asks, why don't you rub the chunk of soap onto the wool instead of putting it on your hand first to then apply to the wool? I
like to feel where I'm adding. I'm just a very tactile felter, and I like to know what I'm doing. If this fiber were loose, I mean, I'm like smearing it on. I don't even know, I'm wiping and scuffing the surface, and I actually feel that's a lot more rough on the fabric than my hands would be. I feel like I know what I'm doing, and I'm also doing work at the same time I'm applying the soap. So it's just the way I work. It's just a preference. Can y'all see how, can y'all see how I'm just like pinching and rolling here? Like, if I really want to square this up, I'm always evaluating what I'm looking at. And so you can just go after it right there. Yes, Anne?
Could you sew or put any edging on it after it's finished?
Sure. You want to put like a ribbon trim, cross-grain ribbon or something like that, a lace, something like that, for sure you can.
Is it possible to use either too much soap or too much water?
Someone asked, is it possible to use too much soap or too much water? I kind of always answer this the same way. Too much water tends to cause the fibers to float apart. So it is possible for something to be like too sloggy. And I felt with less water than I used to. Even on some of my past videos, I felt with less water than I used to. And that's just a learning process. With a soap, what you want is a soap that doesn't suds up and bubble on you. So some of you have heard me say this 1,000 times, and for some of you this is brand new. I don't like to use dish soap myself because usually it adds a lot of bubbles and a lot of air, and you don't need that. What you need is a slicky, slidey, grippy, slippy, slidey surface that allows your hands to glide across. You also need a soap that helps open the fibers, so helps change the pH. So it is possible to have too much soap.
And Bobby asks, what is the proper pH of the soap to use?
Well, most soaps are going to be more basic than wool, but I would just avoid like maybe on average a 9, or you might find something that's a little more neutral. But you want to use a soap that doesn't have any agents that eat organic matter. What do they call those? There's like, they Dawn, you know, helps break down this or that.
Protein fiber?
Yeah, well, this is a protein fiber, but there are some dish soaps that help break down organic matter, and you don't want to use those because they tend to eat away your fiber. So what we usually do at this stage is rinse our piece, and we rinse our pieces and then we dry them. I have the spin dryer all queued up. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to rinse this out, and let me see if I want to see if I can get as much water out of it I can with you right now so you can see what it looks like. All of your luster fibers, anything shiny, is going to look better when the piece is 100% dry. And I will post a picture of this completely dry, but let's measure it so we see how we've done on our shrinkage. I think when we started this project, I think we went for approximately a 40% shrinkage. Isn't that right, Ann? We put it in our little table, which we shared with you all last time. We have a little shrinkage calculator, which Ann may have already shared with you. And that gave us our target, so we knew what size to make our resist or our template. Now this is bigger than my little book that I shared that we made this from, but let's look again at the resist. I know I just had it. Here it is. This is how we made this thing. We made this on this. And so you can, if you want to block it, shape it, iron this right now would be a great time to steam press this with an iron and get it all nice and smooth. I even have water here. I'm gonna plug in our iron and we'll steam press this together, because that's another really common question we get is, can you steam press your felt? So let's do that together. And I'm gonna get my pink bowl out of here. I'm gonna pour some water into my iron. I'll make a mess, why not? Let's use my cup. We just need a little bit. And we're gonna iron this together. So but let's measure, let's do some quick math, Ann, what do you say?
Okay.
Okay, Ann, so we started out with 10.75 inches, and I'll tell you something a little bit about that, but we started out with 10.75 inches, and we are now, we shrunk it quite a bit from where we were a minute ago. We are at between 6.5 and 6 3/4. 6 3/4 at the maximum, and 6 3/4. So 6 3/4 divided by 10.75. Blocking your piece is when you shape it how you want it. You could put a book in here. You could put something to give it, a little bit of an edge and dry it that way. What do you got?
38%.
Oh, so we shrunk this 60% in the width. 6.75 is 40% of 10.75.
6.75 divided by 10.75 is 0.62.
Oh, okay. We shrunk 38%. Okay, so now this is wavy, which I was going for, by the way. I wasn't trying to get it exactly even, but we can do an average. So this height here, Ann, I have 8.5 inches. Yeah, let's measure 8.5 divided by 12. And you'll remember before she gives us that shrinkage that I spent a lot of time shrinking this way and very little shrinking this way, and that's because I was liking how it looked.
0.71.
Oh, okay, so we shrunk about 30% this way. Okay, so we shrunk it 30% this way, which makes sense because you saw how little time I spent going this way. I spent most of my time going like this, and that was just out of desire. All right, so I'm gonna press this a little bit so you can see what happens, but not on my plastic.
Yeah.
I'll move some of my wet supplies. What do we got, Ann? Any questions there or comments so far?
Let's see. A couple of our folks are excited about ironing felt. Kelly Smith shares, I'm thinking about making a wallet. And it says, this would make a nice checkbook cover.
That's right. Very nice. Nice. Okay, so this is pretty simple. I just threw down a quilt square, and I hope my iron it's on steam. It's getting warm. It should be hot. And I'm just going to press it. You can steam it. I like to iron it when it's still damp. When I first started felting, books would say, let it dry overnight, but I just like ironing when it's damp. And if there's little edges that you want to straighten, now's the time you can pull on them a little bit. So just as well as shrinking in areas, is you can pull these back out. And I'm going to turn it over. We'll iron the other side also. Just iron from this side first. You can see the silhouette really well this way. And then we'll just blast this real fast. This is going to look shinier tomorrow. Shinier tomorrow. Yep. I'm just going to hit some of these areas a little bit. And I don't want to get all the crinklies out. I really like I really like the crinklies, and I like when it, you know, puckers. But we did a lot of rolling on this piece, and this is what we made together. And you know what? I think most of the work was last time, like very little time was fulling. And really, it didn't even take that much time to roll. Are there some little imperfections? Maybe. If you were going for perfection, you might not want to see this little bit of the pink under here, and you can go back and, you know, fuss with that if you want. But I think it's a really cute little pouch. You could put a little magnet down here and a magnet here. You could, you know, make a little buttonhole if you wanted. Lots of different ways you could close this off. If it were just like a little journal keeper, you could put a button and some string or leather that comes all the way around. But I think you're really gonna like this when it's dry, because it's gonna have a nice little bit of sheen to it. And just remember that if you want to dry it, there's a little better. If you want to dry it and so that these edges aren't really flat, then go ahead and stuff it. You can stuff it with your little book, you know, that you used in the first place, and you can even iron it over those edges. When I first started making purses, I made pretty big purses, and they would fit over the butt of my ironing board, and then I would iron it around the ironing board just to get that little bit of dimension. Yeah, so I promise I will post a picture of this when it's all dry. It'll probably, you know, at least be another day or so for it to get all the way dry. But I'm really eager to see what you all make, you know, from this little inspiration project we did together. And you know, we have just a minute or two. I'm gonna show those who are just new, just a couple of things if you've never done this before. We have been nanofelting and trying to teach you how to do a simple project. We have a fun little kit and lots of water on my table. I'll put out saying, we have a fun little kit for doing something really simple like a nanofelt scarf. So you could start with something as basic as just 100% coverage. You see the table pretty well, Anne? Like 100% coverage on a scarf like this, which just has a silk fabric on the back. That's real beginner friendly and easy and fun. I brought in one of the first nanofelt scarves I ever did. It's honestly barely felted, but I like to hang on to it because it just kind of reminds me where I started. Who even knows what this fiber was? It's kind of coarse. You know, I wanted to make it like a little wall hanging, not like a wearable, and I like the puckers kind of in there. I want to tell you, it doesn't matter what you know today. It doesn't matter where you start. You never know where you'll end up. So let your hands get in the fiber, play with some fun little projects. We have a free tutorial for wet felting a neck warmer. It's in a different pattern than this. This is highly textural, lots of different fabrics, lots of different fibers. This is a PDF tutorial we have on our website where you could go from something little like this or to something really big and kind of obnoxious like this, which is like we've shared this before. So play with different fibers, play with different fabrics, explore. That's what our theme we decided last year was explore, expand, stretch, and then this year we've added the term play. So really we want to encourage you to learn to make great felt, but have fun in the process. Have fun in the process. And I'll share a picture of that when it's all dry. We're going to turn up the cameras and we're going to give away some prizes. And I'll weigh it once it's all dry and see if that's true. But we did add silks and some other felted bits and embellishments in there too. So here's what we made, Hannah.
Yay! Beautiful.
That's what we made together. Thank you guys so much. So now the fairies are coming back. We're going to give away some prizes. And I'll share a picture of this when it's all dry.
Alrighty. Who wants to go first?
I go first.
I don't know if y'all need to scoot this way a little bit.
Okay. Kathy Charland.
Yay, Kathy!
Ready? We have 2 prizes today. Prize number 1 is a 4-ounce roll of our core wool. and an MC1 goodie bag. So it'll come with a bunch of fun colors.
Oh, this would be really good for doing the mushrooms or toadstools that we're going to play with next time. Yeah. So this is good if you want a needle felt, or you could wet felt this too. Totally wet felt.
Prize number 2 is a nano felting a scarf kit.
That's fun, and we have lots of colors you can pick from on that too. Cool.
Right, next, Holly, do you want to go?
Sorry, Butler.
Yay! Sorry. One more prize today, right?
And alrighty.
I was gonna pull for you.
Kimberly Stressner.
Yay!
Hey gals, if you are not in our database, meaning you've ever ordered anything from us before, even a download, if that hasn't happened, then call us on our toll-free number, which is
877-665-5790.
or you can email us at
Customer service at livingfelt.com.
and tell us what prize you want. But go to our website, livingfelt.com, click anywhere, you'll get into our shopping cart, browse around, and you can pick the type of nanofelt scarf kit you want, if that's what you want. And you can also see lots of free downloads we have that you can play with for your own projects. So next time we're going to needle felt mushrooms, and we will see you then.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.